Assalamu alaikum dear viewers and welcome to a brand new episode of Mental Health Matters. I'm Mariam Hilly, your host, and I'm joined by mental health professional Sister Anisa Diab, who's also my fellow co-host. Welcome to the show, Sister Anisa.
Thank you so much.
In today's episode, we're going to be talking about increasing well-being through physical activity, and we're joined by a special guest. She's a personal trainer and group fitness instructor based in London. She focuses on pre- and postnatal women with an aim to help them regain their strength and confidence after birth. She's also passionate about helping women master strength training for lifelong health. When she's not working from her private studio, she's teaching Le Males classes at various gyms around London. She's also a mum of 2 boys. Please join me in welcoming Sister Zahra Khimji to the show. Welcome to the show, Sister.
Thank you.
So in today's episode, we're trying to link well-being with physical activity. So my first question will be to you, Sister Anisa. What is the connection that we can make between physical fitness and mental health?
Yeah, oftentimes I think people think of the brain and the body as two separate entities, but this could not be further from the truth, because if we look at the anatomy of our bodies, our central nervous system goes through our brain stem to virtually all parts of the body. So when we don't take care of our physical health, our mental health suffers. And when we don't take care of our mental health, our physical health suffers, and it's all interconnected. So when I'm working with clients, one of the first things I tell them in terms of a coping strategy or helping them, to address or, get clarity with their goals is to engage in some kind of physical activity on a daily basis, something that is going to get their bodies moving. And when that happens, you increase your circulation, you increase the amount of oxygen going to your brain, which allows you to think more clearly, especially in times where you might feel anxious or might be stressed. And I think oftentimes when we are stressed out, the last thing we want to think about is exercise. We just want to focus on our to-do list or whatever is going to reduce that to-do list in that moment. But, just like you charge up your phone battery, our bodies have a battery that has to be charged as well. And so exercise is one of the best ways to replenish that. And so again, I tell my clients, at least 20 minutes a day, at least, do something to get your heart rate up. Go outside for a brisk walk, do some yoga. If you don't have a gym, that's okay. Look on YouTube and pick some workouts from there that you can do at home. You don't have to have fancy equipment or a gym membership to stay physically active. But if you want to improve your mental health, then it's really critical to make sure that you're physically active on a regular basis.
Sister Zahra, if I can come to you, what made you decide to become a personal trainer, and have you noticed that physical fitness can have an impact on your clients, or have you noticed that at all?
So going to your first question in terms of why I chose to become a personal trainer, it's not something that just happened overnight. It was just a process of a few years. So once I had my first son, I was looking at flexible career options, and since I was interested in fitness anyway, I had done a Pilates diploma as a hobby. I just built that up. So over the years, as my children were young, I went for more training, I developed more skills, and then ended up doing a PT course, and that really transformed my coaching because it helped me give women a lot of confidence in strength training and using weights to support their bone density and their muscle mass. And in terms of seeing the changes, yes, absolutely. I mean, the way I work is I do a lot of one-to-one coaching, so you see that over the weeks, over time, how they progress in their weight selection and their ability to do certain exercises, and also their mental well-being. So you can see differences in their mindset and their daily habits. So it's a very multi-dimensional change that occurs over the weeks, and it goes well into months of training. So yeah, it becomes a lifelong journey then.
When it comes to the new year, like everyone's new year resolution, or one of their new year's resolutions often to get fit or, you know, to be healthy for the new year. So Sister Anisa, my next question is to you. What are the psychological barriers that exist that perhaps prevent people from reaching those goals that they set, and how can individuals overcome them?
Yeah, you'll notice that during the new year, the gyms are packed, right? It's like everybody is set out to start off the year right. And, you know, you'll find that over time, this motivation sort of wanes. And one might ask why, okay? And, you know, I'm not, you know, a personal trainer or a fitness expert like Sister Zahra is, mashallah, here today. But what I have learned from other experts is the power of intention. You know, if you do not have any intention of working out tomorrow or the rest of the week, you will not work out. It's just like anything. Like if you don't intend to wake up for Fajr tomorrow, chances are you're not going to wake up for Fajr. So, you know, it's people start out so strong at the beginning of the new year because they're setting goals. They're setting an intention for themselves, and that intention is very strong. So I think one of the best ways to overcome this psychological barrier of, you know, starting out really strong with motivation and then having that dwindle is to set an intention every week for yourself. So that might be on Sunday evening before you go to sleep, spending 10 minutes looking at your week and seeing where you want to fit exercise in. Maybe what's more effective for you is, you know, doing this as you're laying down in bed, you know, before you go to sleep at night. If you know you want to work out the next day, you know, lay your clothes out, your workout clothes and all of that, all the things you would need the night before to have that ready to go. Schedule it into your week, you know, just like you schedule your doctor's appointments and all of those things. You know, psychologically, you're much more likely to commit to something if you write it down and you schedule that in as something important. And it really is important. And I think a lot of the folks I speak to feel like, you know, they're selfish for focusing on exercising when so many other things, you know, require their attention. But I think families really need to encourage one another. And I think it's such an emotional deposit, especially in your marriage, when, you know, you have a spouse that says to you like, hey, why don't you go work out for 45 minutes? I'll watch the kids so you can do that. And many times, especially women, they have to sacrifice their sleep. They have to sacrifice so much just to get half an hour to be able to work out. But I think, you know, as families, we have to help each other out. And, you know, it really helps, I think, with the motivation, not just to set the intention, but to have an accountability partner in your family who's saying to you, you know, you matter and I want you to feel good. And it's not just about weight loss. It's not about that. It's about feeling energized. It's about feeling healthy. And the more you exercise, the more you grow in confidence. Anytime you accomplish a goal, you feel more confident. So I think those are some hacks to get past those psychological barriers.
Sister Zahra, as a personal trainer, you know, you can teach your clients so much and like set them tasks perhaps, and then it's their responsibility to then try and apply that in their daily lives. But for some people, the mental barriers are very difficult to overcome. So how do you help your clients overcome those barriers when it comes to trying to make exercise and physical fitness a part of their lifestyle?
I agree with that. You know, mindset tends to be one of the biggest blocks to any, you know, to reaching any fitness goal. So what I tend to do is just get people to move away from the idea that they need motivation to get to where they want to be, because motivation comes and goes. You know, it's an emotion. Like some days you wake up and you feel great and you feel energetic and you really want to do it, you know, and you do it. And some days you don't. Like not everyone wakes up feeling great, you know, and that if you want to get to your goals, you cannot depend motivation to help you every single day. So instead, I get my clients to focus on action, like what is the smallest thing that they can do every single day, regardless of whether they want to do it or not, that will not compromise on their other priorities, but will help them reach their goal. So for example, if they work, let's say they have a quite stressful job and they commute, maybe I ask them to think about walking instead of taking the car, or parking a little bit further away so they can get some more steps in. Building those habits within their daily life so that it's already ingrained, it's already part of their routine. So regardless of whether they feel like it or not, it still happens. And it's that consistency, like showing up every single day, that's going to get them to where they want to be. And in most cases, that's what really solves the issue of psychological barriers and lack of motivation.
You're both working professionals and mums of 2 small children. So how do you make time to focus on physical activity, especially when there's so many deadlines and never-ending to-do lists or just distractions generally in life? And, children don't make it easy either. They might not give you the space to exercise. So, Sister Anisa, I'll come to you first.
I'm definitely a work in progress with this, but I definitely do my best to try to get in what I can. And like Sister Zahra was saying about, if you have a busy lifestyle, finding ways to make it work for you. So, with my kids, my 2 little ones, it is a struggle during the day sometimes. So if I work out, I'll be able to work out with the older one. I try to do things with my kids. That has always helped me, putting a kid's workout video on the TV and then just doing it together. And then that sets a healthy, I think, coping strategy for your kids that, looking at exercise as something fun, as something good for us, as a tool that we can use when we're stressed. And, doing that together is also a bonding activity. The other thing that I do that has helped me is when I drop my daughter off to school, and I have my 1-year-old, I'll go for walks. So I'll just put him in the stroller and I'll walk for a mile every day. That's been my goal. And, it's really helped me. And I think also just utilizing nap times, those times are really great time to be able to exercise, just doing your best. And I think asking for help when you need it. If you need somebody to watch the kids or whatever, so you can get in that half an hour walk around the neighborhood or whatever it is that you need to do, asking for help and not feeling guilty about it. And just giving yourself grace when you fall off the wagon. And I think we all have moments of regression where we maybe have a week or 2 where we're sick and we're just not able to work out the way we should. And sometimes it can be hard to get back on track. So just trying to, not get into all or nothing thinking and thinking if you miss a week, like now you have to start all over again, but just doing what you can each day. And that's what's helped me.
And what about you, Sister Zahra?
So, like Sister Anisa was saying, I'm a big fan of scheduling and looking at my week and making sure that I treat myself as a client. So I make sure that, the hours that I have that I have childcare and I'm working, I'm also factoring in my time as well. Because in order for me to be the most effective in my job, I need to prioritize that kind of training. So I book myself in basically as my own client, and I make sure that I do my workout. Some weeks it's impossible because maybe I'm back to back or there's too much work going on, and I try and get up before the kids are up. I mean, they're a bit older now, so it's a little bit easier. They're 6 and 3, so it's a little bit easier. They can sleep in until 7 or 7:30. So it gives me a little bit of time, maybe half an hour before they're up, just to get something in. But yeah, like Sister Anisa said, it's like trying your best, like giving yourself grace. Knowing that some weeks going to be harder than others, and it's fine. But as long as you've got like the right mindset and you've done everything you can to minimize distraction, you can definitely maintain good fitness that way.
For someone who's just had a baby or might be struggling postpartum with additional weight gain and fatigue, what are some steps that new mothers can take to focus on their physical well-being? Sister Zahra.
I think postpartum health is something that is not very well understood or even researched. The research is still coming out, in terms of what is the best way of recovery and losing the weight. But the general principles are that slow and steady wins the race, and that it took you 9 months to grow a baby, and it may take you the same amount or even more to recover. Like, your body has gone through a really big change, so it's allowing yourself the time and pacing yourself along the way. So not expecting, massive changes within a month or 2 months. It's just knowing that your body will need the time, and it's like a building blocks. So the first 6 weeks, usually you just allow your body to rest, and then week 6 to 3 months, you're building on your core strength and pelvic stability, and then you're building up your fitness with endurance. So there's many ways to recover, but the key point is just give yourself grace and take your time, because if you rush into things like HIIT training and something that's so intense for your body, it will backfire, and you'll end up really disappointed, maybe injured, maybe you might hurt something. I don't know. I've seen situations where moms are trying so hard to lose the weight so quickly that they suffer physically and mentally because it's just exhausting.
What about individuals who've had chronic injuries and they might, be hesitant to work out because of fear that they might cause further damage? What advice do you have for those individuals in order to support their physical fitness?
I would say the first port of call always is to check with your doctor or your GP if you're in the UK, making sure you've got the go ahead to engage in physical activity. And then if so, then I normally if I'm working with a rehab client, we normally liaise with their physio or chiropractor, and then we try and find a suitable program to help them overcome some of those injuries. Like, a common one that I normally see is neck and shoulder injuries, RSI, just because of our lifestyle and poor posture. So in that case, I would then work with the client's physio, and we would develop a program together to help them overcome that injury.
And Sister Anisa, from a mental health perspective, is there an optimal amount of time that an individual should be physically active each week for them to be able to see results in terms of their mental health?
So there are guidelines put out by different organizations. For instance, the Center for Disease Control says that we should be exercising at least 150 minutes of exercise a week, which sounds like a lot, but could be just 30 minutes a day, 5 days a week. It's much better to spread out the activity over the week and to be consistent. Then I think, Sister Zahra was alluding to with, just doing an intense amount or intense chunk of activity, and then, not doing it the rest of the week because you've overdone it or you've pulled something. So, small chunks of time throughout the week and consistency are key. And also, when you're doing this, again, there's a mental health effect that you're experiencing on a daily basis when you're exercising. You're releasing these endorphins that are these mood boosting hormones that are going to help improve your mood. So if you do it on a daily basis, you're not only helping your brain functioning and your body functioning, but also you're more equipped to deal with negative situations as they arise. And it also, there is research to show that it helps to prevent mental illnesses from becoming more severe by balancing the neurotransmitters in your brain. So, I know as a counselor, a lot of my work is sitting, it's listening to people's problems. And I think you just have to get creative about how you're going to bring it into your week. I remember when I worked on a college campus, I would just have lunch at my desk, use my lunch hour to go work out on the campus gym, which I was fortunate to have, or to walk around the campus. And I think sometimes people might self-sabotage and say, well, I don't want to come back to work sweaty, or I don't want to be a certain way. But, you can bring cloths, you can wipe yourself down, you can bring, your hygiene essentials to get back to what you need to do. But I think it's key to figure out what might be those barriers or those excuses for not wanting to do what we know is good for us.
And what types of mental health concerns can exercise help manage, and how?
Honestly, it can help just about any mental health concern. Again, no coping strategy is a cure-all in overcoming it. But, I know especially for folks who have depression, who have anxiety, low self-esteem issues, exercise is a mood booster, right? It's going to decrease those symptoms of depression and anxiety. When you do physical activity, you're releasing those endorphins, and it creates a euphoric sort of state. And that's why I've never heard of anybody who said after exercise they didn't feel better or they regretted exercise, unless they overdid it, unless they pulled something that they shouldn't have. People tend to feel better overall. And so, oftentimes, like we, as doctors, as physicians, those in the medical field, they will recommend certain, drugs or whatever to treat depression or anxiety. But they've done studies to show that just even exercising 30 minutes a day can reduce those symptoms. And I always tell my clients, before, nothing wrong, no shame if you need medication, but before you go that route, try to see if exercise has any kind of positive effect in reducing those symptoms. It's also great for insomnia. A lot of times we have a very sedentary lifestyle, and if we're not physically active enough, it can be harder to fall asleep at night. So it can help certainly with sleep issues. It helps to regulate your circadian rhythm, and not just improves your ability to fall asleep faster, but the quality of your sleep. And it also boosts your brain intelligence. It strengthens your memory, it strengthens your brain power. So there's so many benefits. And again, researchers are still coming out with new evidence to show how beneficial exercise is for the human mind. But it's just, I think, with whatever mental health issue you're struggling with, exercise is something that should definitely be incorporated and looked at as a kind of medicine for yourself.
Sister Zahra, what resources are available to viewers who want to focus on their fitness journey, and how can they get in touch with you for more information or support if they wanted to?
That's a great question. I think, if you just look on the internet, it's almost mind-boggling how much there is out there. And I think that's part of the problem, is that there's so much out there that, you are grabbing onto anything but not sticking to one thing. So, and also we don't know, like anyone could post some workouts online and say, this is what you need to do to lose weight, etc. And I've seen it. So I would say, if you're really serious and you need help, think about, finding a coach or a professional who will help you, who's done the relevant training, who will help you through the process. If you find that you're hitting like loads of roadblocks and you can't do it on your own, there's no shame in that, because everyone needs help. It's more about, finding someone that you can work with closely and that you can be really open with, and that will help you through all the barriers. So it will, like with anything, for example, if you're unwell with an injury, you'd go to the doctor. So if physically you're struggling with your fitness, seek help. So I would say definitely seek someone if you need more support. Otherwise, all the guidelines are available and they're absolutely free online. So you can look at the guidelines in terms of, you know, what should we be doing on a weekly basis? Like Sister Anisa said, 150 minutes, you know, even just starting with the simplest thing like walking for 30 minutes every day. And it's really about starting really small. So as I said, building it into a day and then growing from there. So, you know, it's so I would say those two things: seek a professional, and also look online and just look at the guidelines in terms of what we should be doing. Um, for example, a really interesting thing to think about is women over the ages of 30, 40. Our metabolism tends to drop down. You know, we lose bone density, we lose muscle mass, our body fat distribution changes, so we tend to pack a lot of weight in our abdominal area. Like, these are all things that are available online but somehow seem inaccessible. So, you know, it's really about doing your research, find ways that will work for you.
And if somebody wanted to get in touch with you, how can they do that?
Sure. So I'm on Instagram. So my handle is zahra.khimjipt. So that's the best place because I'm normally posting about my coaching journey, and I normally, you know, talk about what I'm doing, and I post lots of information on there, which I hope is helpful.
Nice, thank you. And finally, for those who feel they might be too old or too overweight, or they feel like perhaps it's even too late for them to focus on their physical education, physical health, what would you say to those individuals to encourage them to get into physical activity?
Well, it's the story that we tell ourselves, isn't it? It's the story that I'm too old, or I'm not, you know, I'm not strong enough, or that's not for me. And it all begins with that story. It's like, who do you want to be? Like, who do you want to become? And you know, if you focus on that, like what Sister Anisa was saying, is setting that intention of who you want to become, and then working towards that regardless of age. I think we tend to hide behind things like age and children and I'm too busy. It's, you know, taking that ownership of your own health and fitness. It's own, no one is coming to save you. Like, it's you alone. And it's once we realize that we are responsible for ourselves, um, we can then find ways to get to where we need to go. And I mean, you know, one of my mentors, she's 65 and she's still so active. She's teaching and coaching, and she's probably teaching a lot more than I am, you know, and she's like, over, you know, she's double my age. So so it just goes to show you, and it's age is just a number. It's just all about what's going on over here in the mind.
Just before we end the episode, do you guys have any final words of encouragement for anybody who's trying to get into physical activity for their mental well-being? I'll go with Sister Anisa first.
Yeah, sure. I think what's helped me is when I'm feeling stuck, to ask myself, what can I do for 5 minutes for my physical well-being? You know, you can pretty much do anything in your life for 5 minutes, whether it's meditating, whether it's exercise. And what I often find is that once I do that 5 minutes of beginning to exercise, I want to do more, and I'm able to add on more minutes. So I think sometimes the hardest thing is starting. And like Sister Zahra was saying, you know, a lot of times in life, we don't want to do things that we know are good for us because we don't feel like doing it. And if we can get to a point in our lives where we do what's good for us, regardless of our emotional state, I think that's how you overcome some of those barriers. Sometimes we have to do things in life when we just don't feel like doing it. And I think physical exercise is one of those things. But I've learned over the years that the more I've kept up with it, the more you know, when I notice how I feel afterwards, the more I become self-motivated to continue the practice. But yeah, that has been what has helped me, and doing a lot of reading. I'm not knowledgeable, you know, really like an expert on these topics of physical fitness, but going to my library, I've grabbed a couple of books that have been helpful and have really added to my fitness journey too.
And Sister Zahra, any final words from you?
I mean, I would say that it all begins with deciding who you want to become, and allowing yourself that place. And I see it when I meet people for the first time, and I meet clients for the first time, and they say that I could never do that, or I am not that. And it's, once they change that story about themselves, everything else changes. It's like they need to work on their internal dialogue and their internal mindset. And so once you decide who you want to become and give yourself that, allow yourself to become that, things just fall into place.
Thank you both so much for a very interesting discussion. Dear viewers, thank you for joining, and we'll see you again soon, inshallah. Take care. Assalamu alaikum.